Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. A lot's happening here on the program, so let's get started. Joining me this morning is retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Cheryl, great to see you. Good morning to you. Okay, no one in the Adelson family has been charged, right? This is the theory that's been put forward, but I gotta ask you, based upon that phone call, in your experience, does that look like somebody that's trying to hide something?
Yeah, he's real slippery right there, right? He works in the office. I mean, it's his dad's, and all of a sudden he doesn't know anything about the practice or where anything is kept. He's is he even allowed on the property the way he's carrying on? And so what's he hiding?
Do you think, could you view that as him trying to tell his assistant not to cooperate? There's a part where he says, look, I can't tell you what to do. You know, you can talk to anybody, but that is, she works for him. So if you're looking at that from a lens, could you say that he's pressuring her to not cooperate?
Well, listen, I wouldn't say it's pressure, but he's certainly giving her a wink and a nod. And he's also trying not to alert her and cause her to become suspicious because she's not in on what the family has been doing, right? And so while he's trying to very calmly and reasonably say to her, hey, listen, you know, it's not my office, it's my dad's, you know that. And so just tell him to come back a little later, but I'll call you back because he needs to make sure she's clear. Give them nothing.
Based upon everything you've seen in this case, are you surprised no one from the Adelsons has been charged?
I'm not surprised. You know, we had this discussion before because listen, like I've said, the prosecutor's going to get one bite at the apple. And so you don't want to step in too soon before you're ready. There's no urgency. There's no statute of limitations on murder. They can get them when they have a solid case to put forth.
And maybe we'll see whatever the decision will be after this trial, because if both of these parties are convicted, that changes the whole landscape. What I do want to go back to is these defendants, because what we saw last week was an analysis of their finances, financial transactions. So pay close attention to what you're about to hear. This is Mary Hull, a former criminal financial investigator who was tasked with looking at the bank records and the accounts of Garcia, Rivera, Magbanua. Do you notice something a bit odd? Let's see. Okay, Cheryl, so the theory put forward there is that if you look at their accounts, there's this influx of cash. She gets a breast procedure. He's buying a motorcycle. There's this influx of cash. Where's it coming from? Especially with Magbanua, if she wasn't working, you know, where's this money coming from? Now, on the other side, you heard the defense say, well, a $500 motorcycle, not really an extravagant purchase. She might have been working in the nightclub industry. It's hard to tell whether or not the money that's coming in is from there or from the Adelsons. You really can't tell one way or another. But the timing of this doesn't look great for the state. What's your, for the defense, what do you think about this everything we heard last week on the financial transactions?
Well, the defense is trying to raise reasonable doubt and present something that sounds reasonable to the jury in terms of their expenditures. But when you narrow down and you focus in on the time frame when all of these expenditures were being done, it clearly points to they just came into a lot of money. I mean, it's not a lot of money for, you know, rich folks, right? But if you're living paycheck to paycheck like they were, if your check is depositing, you know, at 12 o'clock and you're doing a complete withdrawal by 1 o'clock, you understand that their finances are in jeopardy month to month, day to day. And so now all of a sudden, buying cars, cosmetic surgery, and then guess what? When the money is gone by the end of the year, all of that stuff stops as well.
Right, and they were saying that, you know, there would be times where there would be irregularities in the account. Maybe he wouldn't have enough money that he was taking out, and that problem ceased to happen at a certain point, indicating that, okay, he's got the money now. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about that we heard from a retired FBI agent who testified that he approached Donna Adelson, again, the former mother-in-law of Dan Markel, the mother of Wendy Adelson, the mother of Charlie Adelson, and approached her on the street, seemingly trying to be Garcia. There was a note that he handed her with a photo of Markel, $5,000 written on it, asking that he wanted some assistance with the problems up north. That tactic of going up to somebody who, you know, at this point, again, none of the Adelsons have been charged, but going up there to try to get information from her, see how she responds, is that on the up and up? Is that how officers usually do that?
Well, listen, police are tricky. And so, you know, when you're trying to get information, there are no really rule books in terms of trickery. Sometimes we've seen investigators say that they have more information than they do just to see what else a person might say, because oftentimes, and this family has been sitting waiting for the other shoe to drop and it hasn't. So that could be very off-putting. And I'm assuming since she's the grandmother in this whole scenario, that she's a little older. She may not be as savvy, may not be as quick. And so that would be the one that you'd want to catch off guard on the street in the midst of carrying out her day and hope she blurts something out.
Well, you know, she told him she doesn't know what he's talking about. She puts the paper in her purse and she continues walking. It's interesting. What did she do next? You know, who did she call? That's obviously what they want to see too. But, you know, this agent said it's to tickle the wire, you know, and get this information out of the Adelsons about what happened. But if they really had nothing to do with this, then the other question I have is the timeline, right? I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to see this, but, you know, there is a timeline of communications between Garcia and Magbanua and Charlie Adelson that they listed out, you know, point by point. And I got to say, if this is just coincidence, is that too much to believe? This regularity of contacts before and after the shooting. I mean, what did you make of that? The communications that kept on coming on.
Well, I think, you know, everything is a piece to the puzzle and there are no coincidences. And so there was much to be said, clearly, because they were preparing, they were planning, they were trying to fine tune, if you will, what it is that they were about to do. And so there was a lot of prep work in that. And then everybody goes radio silence in the midst of actually committing this crime, is what it sounds like to me. And then once the deed is done, more activity, because now I need you to know the deed is done. It fits.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of communication right before the killing, and we believed it happened in the morning hours. Then there's this lapse in communication for like an 8-hour period, and we're going to break it down maybe a little bit after our next break because we are waiting to jump live any second. So let's take a break now, and when we come back, we'll have more on this case.